In the name of my ancestors, peace forever and always, and welcome to another edition of the Realities Temple on Earth. Of course, I am the gatekeeper of this internet ministry, known here on YouTube and many other places. I am called the Mighty, Mighty, Mighty Angel Snub 7, your brother and hopefully your friend, Taalik Ibn'rad. I'd like to begin by first sending a few quick shout outs to the following persons. I begin with my assistant student AdMinister, Andre, my sister from Virginia, Brenda Kearney, brother David Brayboy, Universal Moore, my sister Fanadia, the Wacky World of O, and of course, brother Michael 13X. I have a lot to say, and I hope that you bear with me as I attempt to get through what I deem a subject very important to us. The subject that I've chosen is an attempt to answer a question that many of us speak or say perhaps almost daily, because we truly wonder, why is it so difficult that black people, the so-called Negro, the African American, why is it so difficult for black people to unite? In fact, is it possible? We want to explore this question. There was a movie they made, or it was released in 1987. It was called Shaka Zulu. And I was watching Shaka Zulu, and one of Shaka Zulu's, one of his aides was telling Shaka, the reason why the people love you, Shaka, is because you bring them reality. And according to this movie, Shaka was not impressed by religion. Shaka was not impressed by spirituality. There was only one reality that Shaka knew, and that was the reality of war. Now, I want to explain this. I want to explain myself to the best of my ability without having to break that or cross that thin line of reality and fantasy. We already suffer enough from being told fairy tales and our belief in fiction. And this fiction and these fairy tale stories have been handed down from generation to generation, that now it has become part of our reality, something that the great King Shaka rejected. So, this is the Realities Temple on Earth. I definitely do not want to cross that line and continue this thing, this thing of belief. I thinks, and I have to believe, to try to explain what I need to explain in the most real manner that I can try to create. So the question has been presented to us, why is it so hard for black people to unite? Do we like oppression? Do we love being mistreated? Has abuse become pleasurable to us? I did not ask or make a request to some God or pray to some God to reveal the answer, as clearly he or she has not assisted believers so they can find the answer to this problem that is key to the change of those called African American or Negroes. When you allow your brain to think, allow your brain to analyze without being hindered by some religious or political thought. Religious and political thoughts place your mentality into a box, into a square, into some type of confine, whereas you cannot think, like they say, outside of the box. But at the same time, you claim to be a believer in God, and God could not be God unless this God or this goddess thought outside of the box. That's why in creation, things always change. But things in a box don't change. They remain the same. So you can't be a believer in God. You cannot be a goddess. And your mind, you allow your mind to be entrapped by a certain religious idea or political idea. And when the mind is trapped, when the mind is confined, that's a clue, that's a sign that you become a slave, because a slave can only think within the confines or the boundaries, mentally and physically, of what his slave master want them to think or do. We must be careful not to become slaves. You say that you don't like being a slave. You say that being a slave is bad. But there's nothing worse than being a voluntary slave, because you've accepted your condition. And that's one of the reasons why the black man and woman in America were slaves for so long and seemed to be content, because they accepted their fate as being a slave. You had some runaways. You had those who wanted to rebel, but the slave population in and of itself made no attempt to break or relieve itself of slavery, because it accepted the boundaries. It accepted, I'm a slave. I was born a slave and I would die a slave. And that's the attitude many of y'all have out there in YouTube land or in the internet land. You think the same way. This is just the way it is. I never do no better. I just wait for massa to throw me some crumbs. I have accepted being a slave. But the creation or any God did not make you or bring you into existence to be a slave to nobody, even a slave to him or herself as being a God. If God is your father, what father wants you to be a slave to them? What mother wants you to be her slave? They want you to be free and grow up as a child of God to be better than them and expound your mind out into the heavens in this creation so that you can find and discover new things. You look into the sky and all these heavens, look at all that which you need to conquer. But right now, you're earthbound. That's why in religion, there's an obsession with going to heaven. There's an obsession with rising from the earth, ascending from the earth into the heavens, into the sky. Because being earthbound keeps you on that playing field of the average animal. The average animal, does not have the thinking capacity or capability as the human being. You're able to think outside of the box, and you're able to ascend, unlike the common beasts of the field. But humanity has fallen so low now that heaven is nothing but an obsession. It's a fairy tale, it's an idea. It's something that is wanted because you've fallen so low. You've lost your ability to fly. This, when you allow your brain to think, allow your brain to analyze, you will see that it's not just some special or divine person that has an answer for us. And then when the answer appears, when we begin to think, you can say to yourself, wow, it was always there. It's so simple. And we feel rather stupid and dumb, but that's because we don't allow ourselves to think, to analyze. That's what your brain is for. It is there to solve our problems. Black folks cannot unify, or we have problems with unification because they hold on to which they are not. I'm going to say that again for us. The reason why those called black or African American, the reason why you will never unify or you have problems with unification is because you are trying to be that which you are not. Black people, now listen to me. First of all, you are not black. This description, along with Negro and colored, African American, where actually African American was something that we decided to place upon ourselves, but it's still all in the same category. These names, even black was made positive, but when we were called black and colored and Negro, all these things came from our conquerors. We did not name ourselves that. Our ancestors made being black and I'm proud something positive. But that term or the description of black came from the conqueror. And also the conqueror called the continent that our ancestors came from Africa. This continent was renamed. We were renamed as a people by the racist Caucasian Europeans. European and American. This is the ironic thing. Many of us change our names from those forced upon us. I don't want those. I'm getting rid of that slave name. So we change our names from Robert Johnson to some African name or some Arabic name or whatever. And that's good, because that name reflects and shows that you are still a slave to somebody. And it is good that you refuse and don't want to be thought of or seen as somebody's slave, especially when you call yourself free. But we get rid of the names that was forced upon us, but that's just the beginning. There are many aspects of white supremacy that you hold on to. I'll give you a quick example. I was watching a brother's video, and the brother claims black supremacy. And now he has a video, black supremacy, sex god. What the? Black supremacy, sex god. Here you are. You don't want to be the white man's slave. You got a problem with white supremacy, but you taken white supremacy and made it black, and you embrace and take on the ways of the conqueror, because he's obsessed with sex. He's obsessed with the physical. And there you go. I'm black supremacy, sex god. Woo! Oh, man. And you wonder why you have not moved forward. The only thing you are doing is wallowing in the same filth that you was born into. I've never seen, and you can teach me, I've never seen no evidence to suggest our ancestors claim to be black or claim to be Africans. They were bound by nation, tribe, or some religious affiliation. They did not care about race. The racist Caucasian Europeans created the concept of race all by themselves. There was no African participation. There was no Native American participation. No person of color was involved in the creation of the concept of race. It was designed to justify their brutal treatment of non-whites and put them in the position of being supreme over darker people. It is ludicrous. It is ludicrous for us to believe that this idea that we embrace, born from white supremacy, designed to divide and make one inferior, make one enslaved, will somehow set the victim free. The question is, you've been proud to be African, you've been proud to be black for a long time. So the question is, are you free? How close have you come to truly being free? You've had successful moments. There's confusion. And many of you don't like being called black. You don't like being called African. So there's confusion, even just division that's caused trying to find a description for those who are the descendants of slaves born in America. Those with dark skin. You have your reasons for the rejection of saying I'm black or I'm African American or all these different terms. But the real reason is because none of these things, Hebrew, Israelite, Moor, Caucasian, all these things that we call ourselves, Christian, American, all these labels are not us. And that's why us us in this confusion should not come together anyway. You are divided and confused. You're messed up. What type of real unification are you going to have with everybody everybody's mind is rambling? In the Quran, it says that Allah is not the author of confusion. So if you think that you're going to bring something new into existence, do you think that that something new can be created with a mentality that is confused? It's not going to happen. For us to embrace what is called race, black or African, if you embrace those things, it only makes you, it makes you white supremacy's apprentice, because that's who you learned all of it from. There is no ancient black person. None of our ancestors taught us to be black or African. They did not, were in any type of ancient teachings that you claim to be from black folks where they talk about race. They did not care about none of those things. So the only thing you've done is become a student of your oppressor. And you now practice a black version of white supremacy. So even if you successfully destroyed white supremacy, your problems will continue, because all you did was give color to white supremacy. You will continue, and if you look at the mentality of those who express all this blackness and Africanness, you can see that they will only continue to oppress others that they deem inferior to themselves. And this type of mentality of racial supremacy, it should be 1000% destroyed. It should not be saved. This is why you see Caucasian people nowadays, they're beginning to place dark people in more important positions, because they understand that even here in the United States, they are becoming slowly but surely the minority. At this time, the Caucasian population in this nation far outweighs non-whites. But they understand and see that slowly but surely they are going to be edged out. So in order to survive, they are making more and more efforts to place their mentality in the minds of dark people. And what is so ironic is that those who claim black power, family, black power, black supremacy, you are the number one student. You are the number one vessel that voluntarily is helping them keep themselves alive. Because the reason why you say black power, the reason why you say black supremacy, is not because something that you found out your ancestors was teaching. You are getting it from your massa. You're a black power, black supremacist slave. And you are worse than any Uncle Tom. Because at least an Uncle Tom has just accepted, well, you can't beat them, join them. I love my massa. You claim not to love massa, but you have taken on his ways. You've taken on his mentality. And you don't even know it. Are you that dumb? Yes, we are. At one time, what what has messed us up is that at one time, these things helped us because we knew nothing at all. So when we were introduced to Hebrew Israelite teaching, or the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or the Honorable Noble Jew Ali, and whatever we were presented, they helped us begin the process of breaking the slave mentality. If not for that, I could not be speaking to you today. But somewhere, because we did not mature, because instead of moving forward, we began to move backwards. That which was designed or created to try to help us now places us back into slavery. A slavery that is worse because you think that you're on the path of freedom. But how long have you had these teachings? How long have you been proud to be black? How long have you been proud to be African? You're not living in Africa. You have no unification because you are practicing something that was designed to keep you divided, to keep you at odds with your fellow descendant of a slave. And look at all the debates on YouTube. Always, you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. It was designed to keep you confused. And with all your Qurans, you have become a victim of confusion. You have become a white supremacist with dark skin. To holler black power, to holler black supremacy, to holler and claim black conscience, only is verification that you intend to stay a slave. But what you dislike is having a white oppressor or a conqueror. You feel more comfortable having a black face as an oppressor. There are those suffering right now here in 2012 under tyranny, suffering injustice, inequality. As I speak, they are considered blacks. There are many African nations, and you have black folks that murder, rape, rob, lie and steal, exploit other black folks because they also have the mind of the white supremacists. Does that make them good because they are dictators or they are wicked because they have black skin? That makes you feel better? Evil is evil. Makes no difference what the color. I don't want you to beat me. I don't want you to rape me. I don't want you to steal from me. Because you black. I'm supposed to love it. I don't believe these are happy who are black under the wicked foot of those who treat them and mistreat them. What did I say? I treat and mistreat. That's what happens when you talk too fast. I don't see people happy under mistreatment regardless of skin color. Skin color has never harmed nobody. Show me where skin color itself harmed anybody. However, when skin color represents a certain mentality, that is when your problems begin. Black folks cannot or will continue to have problems with unification, which is the key to your freedom, brothers and sisters. Because what you believe you are and what you have pride in was not designed to free you, but enslave. The only thing that has happened is the skin color of the massa has changed. And you should not want to be a slave, of course, to white people. And you should not want to be a slave to black people with the same type of mentality. Are you with me? Hang with me on this talk. Bring me your truth. Tell me I'm a liar. Show me. The proof is in the pudding. All your black power, all your black conscience, all your African, all this that you got. Show me where it's getting you somewhere. It is not. But you can see easily the confusion, the division, the hatred towards other black folks. Because it is the same thing. It is white supremacy with blackface. When the racist Europeans became the gods, I'm going to use this word God. And God to me is only that which has force and power. If God does not have force and power, how can they become or be God? But when the white man became the God of this world, they viewed themselves as being like Adam of the Bible. In fact, they are called Adamites, Adamaic, something to that effect in some circles. In the Bible, and I'm going to use the Bible and the Quran because that's where our mentality is at. We are spiritual. We are religious. So I want to use a little religious reference to help back up and support what I'm bringing us. Adam was given dominion of this planet. The animals, the fish of the sea, the fowl in the sky, and so forth. Mind you, that Europeans, just like Adam, renamed this planet. They called it Earth. The name Earth is more or less than 5,000 years. It's not very old. You know how old the Earth is. And people have been on this planet longer than 5,000 years or whatever. So I don't know what the ancient people called this planet, but the white folks, when they came into power, they renamed it the Earth. They also said it was flat to show you their ignorance. They didn't know no better. But they renamed the Earth. They renamed all the animals, the birds, the fish, and they renamed you, our ancestors, all over this planet. They conquered, renamed, and destroyed non-whites. They forced upon you, our people, their religion, their culture, their way of life. This, of course, I know that you will agree with. And what is so mind-boggling is that Africans call themselves Africans when they know that is not the original name of the continent. The world, listen, the world accepts the Europeans' version of time time. The European version of time is based upon the birth of the fictional character in their Bible called Jesus. You have to excuse me, I got a telephone ringing. It's throwing me off a little bit. I'm gonna try to ignore the telephone and let's stay on track here. Now look at this. These people change time. They change time, and the rest of the world of humanity accepts that time. Right now, the Chinese celebrate the Year of the Dragon, but that's become a novelty because time is what the Europeans who are still in power, they have determined this is what time is. It ain't the Year of No Dragon, it's 2012. Oh, these are powerful people. And you underestimate them because they have become gods. That which has force and power. You got to have a lot of power, people. Woo! You got to have a lot of power, people. When you can rename somebody, they know that's not their name, and they accept the name that you gave them. Unlike slavery, where they made Kuta Kinte except being called Toby. These Africans who are supposed to be smarter, and some of them view themselves better than the descendants of slaves born in America, look at their condition. They speak English better than many white folks. They call themselves Africans, knowing that's not what that continent was called. And Africa is made up of over 50 nations. And everybody got their own way of doing things. But I'm an African. Just because you're on that continent. That's not what they are. They believe in Jesus. Some of these Africans. You see them foam at the mouth and hoop and holler and more spiritual than the white people that gave them that religion. Because there was no Christianity practiced in Africa until there was in Africa, and the Caucasian, racist Caucasian Europeans and Americans come onto that land. And what many of us don't realize also in modern times, that many of these African nations just recently got their freedom back from the European. Many of them just had their freedom returned to them within the late 1950s. So you see why they are in bad shape. So why are you looking to Africa when they are confused? And the Quran says Allah is not the author of confusion. So you understand now why Africa is so messed up. You should understand now why we are so messed up, because we've been given confusion. And we've accepted and embraced confusion as a way of life. It is our reality. And we think that being confused, we think being mentally ill is good. We don't know no better. It is the leadership of the Caucasian people. When I'm talking about what white people did, I'm not talking about Johnny Sue and Fannie Mae, your white next door neighbors. They are just tools used by their elite who put all this into motion. Some of this was put into motion and planned years ahead of time. Y'all don't understand that. Y'all can barely make it to work on time. White folks, those who are smart, they make plans. And it takes years, maybe generations, to put into motion. That's how they do things. So when it all falls down, you're just born into it, and it's just a part of your life. Somebody else, generations, maybe hundreds of years ago, designed it to be exactly like this. Keeping you an inferior and keeping their chosen people, because they are gods, and these are the chosen of this God, to keep them on top. But the Caucasian people in leadership, and you will never see them on YouTube. You will never see them in the presidency, but they control the presidency. They control all the aspects of this society and life. You think you know who they are, but you don't. Just like God. When has this God revealed himself or herself to you? Never. So if these Caucasian people in power have become gods, do you really think they are going to reveal themselves to you? You have no idea who they are. You just point fingers. Oh, they the Rockefellers. They this rich white family. The DuPonts or whatever. Is it that easy? When you look at your religion, is it that easy to track down a God? You little fellas? It ain't that easy. But when you understand how Godship really works, then you can become a God yourself and deal with this power. But you can't deal with it. You become a black version of white supremacy that the gods of this world created. And you just so happy. Oh, it's just amazing. You just so happy. And you think you know some great wisdom. Highly educated, highly intelligent slave. A slave exists only to benefit his master. And since you refuse to unify with other descendants of slaves born in America, the only beneficiary of your activity, black power, black conscience, is the conqueror, because you are a slave. And I know you don't like what I'm saying. I could care less. But it's time. The time has come for you to wake up out of your second slumber. You put your dang self to sleep. Time to wake up again. And this time, when you get to moving, you're not going to be going backwards. It's all the way forward. When you launch off the launching pad, it's all the way up. You're not going to explode in the sky. Next step, your own godhood, to conquer that which you was created to conquer. All of that which you see. These people holding you down ain't nothing. You're holding yourself down because you don't understand who you are really. You don't understand that which is keeping you held down to this earth or on an earthly plane. These racist European Caucasian people in power, you think they are still living in some cave. They are beyond the cave. They have become a very smart and intelligent cave dweller. They still have the barbarian mentality, but they learn how to make their victims fall in love with them. or their victims carry on their mentality of which you, with a smile on your face, that's what you happily do. So even if they themselves are destroyed for some reason or made to flee, they will continue to live in another body. It sort of reminds you of the invasion of the body snatchers. This is why black people can't unite. This is why you, who are the chosen, and we're going to talk about you and us being the chosen people. This is why you can't progress, because you can't take this slave mentality. You can't take this filth that you've gotten wallowing in this mud. You can't take this into a brand new house. Are you following me? Out of emotion. And when one becomes emotional, emotion hinders the ability to think clearly. Now, I'll tell you something else. Sex. See, sex is very powerful. Emotion and keeping sex on your mind all the time, it hinders rational thinking. It hinders the ability to think clear. It reminds you of an electric line. But if you put something on the line, it can cause interference where you're not getting your proper voltage. Brothers and sisters, we have a connection to the universe. And the conductor is your brain. Your brain, my brain, it was designed to solve all your problems. But it cannot solve your problems if there is something that is clogging up the pipeline. So, I'm not saying that being a black Moor or a Hebrew Israelite or being a Commission, or, a Kemet or a black Muslim, I'm not saying that all these things are bad are bad things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they were part of a connection to help us rise. And now there's a backup in the pipeline. So we're not getting proper water pressure. And water in religion is represented or a symbol of wisdom. We're not getting the wisdom. We're not getting the proper understanding that we should, because our minds are clogged up in emotion. And we become sexually obsessed like our oppressors. It hinders our ability to think clear. So out of emotion, we call the white man, a Caucasian, we call them crackers, devils, Satan, and all these other infantile and fictional names. When in reality, and you have underestimated that you're dealing with gods. Haven't they given themselves the power of a god? Just like the God gave the power to Adam. When gods come into power, they don't worship other gods, nor do they want anything left behind by another power. Whether it is good or bad, they don't want it. time that the European racist Caucasian people conquered any dark folks, they destroyed their libraries. They destroyed the sources of knowledge. They murdered anybody living that was capable of carrying that knowledge. Because what they could not destroy, they took claim as the author or the creator. So this is why you see an obsession by many Caucasian people, or those who claim to be Caucasians on YouTube. They are obsessed with trying to paint ancient civilizations with great accomplishments as Caucasian, when common sense tells us that these ancients were not Caucasian. Regardless, they were of people of color. They don't even know why. They just obsessed. Oh, ancient Egypt was white. So-and-so, no, they white. They don't want you to claim nobody. They know that you are lost people. They know the only thing you want to do is try to find where you come from. But you're supposed to accept what they tell you where you came from. See, that's the problem. They have a slave master mentality. They have a God complex. They don't even know why. They just think they just arguing. No, these white folks, Billy Bob and Little Jane, your best friend, they don't even know. They have been conditioned to believe they are gods. They have been conditioned to believe and feel that they are the ultimate authority. And when you are the ultimate authority, anything any dark people bring got to be wrong. No other God shall stand before me. So they get angry at you because you and me, the so-called African American, the Negro, we belong to them. How dare you, slave? I tell you, ancient Egypt was white. How dare you say otherwise? A God complex, slave master mentality. Then they'll turn around and tell you, I'm not racist. What you think that is? Because if you notice, they only want to claim great, what many might consider great civilizations. They're not running around trying to claim mediocre places. Only the greatest. Because I'm the God of this world. It's all because of me. You Negroes have never been anything except my slave. How dare you claim Egypt? How dare you claim whatever they be arguing about all the time? You a slave. That's the only thing you ever been. If it was possible to clearly make such claim or just utterly destroy all traces of Egypt or any of these other places that they put on a pedestal, they would have done so. The racist Caucasian people, if it was possible to destroy all traces of Egypt and all these other ancient places, they would have done so. But also, it is an advantage to claim something so great so that you can further support the mentality of white supremacy. These, and some of them realize But like I say, they've been conditioned to think that way. But they have become, these are a mentally sick people. But my talk is not really about them. My talk is about their sickness influencing us. And we have been raised up in this sick society for over 400 years. So it should not be a shock to you. It should not be a shock to me that we suffer like this. It should not be a shock or surprise that these who have been oppressed, we've fallen in love or comfortable with abuse and oppression, or we've fallen in love with our fantasy fictional idea that because we holler black power, I'm black conscious, I represent black supremacy, we think I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm a black Muslim, I'm black, I'm an African this, whatever. You think that because you say these things that you are not a slave. You become a worse slave because it's voluntary slavery. You and I, to embrace these ideas that come from the conqueror, we become a worse slave than our forefathers because they knew they were not black. They knew they were not African. We've accepted, and this what we express is reactionary to being and living under a white supremacist society, and our information comes to us in pieces. And because it comes to us in pieces, because there's truth in all things, but because it's in pieces, and we have not matured enough to how to put the puzzle together. It's all part of a puzzle, brothers and sisters. You got to put the puzzle together. And when you begin to put the pieces of the puzzle together, you suddenly will find yourself unified. But right now, everybody got their own piece. You can't have my piece. So the puzzle cannot be put together, cannot be formed. Hold on. We're going to part 2. Hold on.